Syria's defense minister announced a ceasefire shortly after government forces entered a key city in Sweida province on Tuesday. According to Associated Press, the announcement came a day after sectarian clashes that killed dozens, and after Israel launched strikes in the area. Footage from Al Arabiya showed clashes in Sweida city on Tuesday with Syrian soldiers firing weapons before the ceasefire was announced. Defense Minister Mirhaf Abu Khazra said in a statement that after an agreement with the city's notables and dignitaries, we will respond only to the sources of fire and deal with any targeting by outlaw groups. The clashes began with a series of tit-for-tat kidnappings and attacks between members of local Sunni Bedouin tribes and Druze armed factions in the southern province, a center of the Druze community. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz said in a joint statement that Israel had struck to prevent the Syrian regime from harming the Druze and to ensure disarmament in the area adjacent to our borders with Syria. Syrian government security forces sent to restore order on Monday also clashed with Druze armed groups. During the day, Israel struck Syrian government military tank and said it was acting to protect the Druze religious minority. The Israeli army said in a statement that it had struck military vehicles belonging to the Syrian regime. In Israel, the Druze are seen as a loyal minority and often serve in the armed forces. State-run news agency Sana did not give any details about Tuesday's strike. However, the Britain-based war monitor the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said Israel struck a tank belonging to the Syrian military as forces began to move in deeper into Sweida city. European Union foreign ministers on Tuesday welcomed the news from Washington that U.S. President Donald Trump will allow the EU to pay for American weapons to be sent to Ukraine, a stunning reversal of policy after previously antagonizing the bloc while sending overtures to Moscow. According to Associated Press, the plan is designed to allow the U.S. to funnel more firepower to Ukraine to combat invading Russian forces during their summer military offensive while easing Washington's financial burden. Increased weapons shipments, combined with possible new penalties Trump has promised if a halt to the fighting isn't reached in 50 days, could push Russian President Vladimir Putin into peace talks that Trump has championed for months, so far with little to show for it. While EU officials have voiced concern that 50 days is too long, they have largely welcomed the shift in tone from the US.
What we experienced yesterday with the new messages from Trump was very, very important in terms of acceptance of delivering weapon, but also the sanction scheme. I talked to Lindsey Graham last week in Washington, and he's processing his sanction package, and I have long been advocating that we should join forces transatlantic, and therefore it is of crucial importance that Europe now agree on this 18th sanction package, where the oil price cap is one of the most important elements.
I do believe that 50 days that Mr. Trump has announced is rather long. That's up to the 2nd of September. I think that's rather long. But I do appreciate that they really see that Putin is dragging his feet and that we need to ramp up the pressure on Russia. I also continue to see the bill by Senators Graham and Blumenthal, which have 87 co-sponsors. hardly ever seen such a long list of co-sponsors, 87 of the 100 senators. So I do think it's very important that the US is on the move and that we're on the move together as EU, and I hope that sooner rather than later we'll be able to approve the 18 sanctions package. So we need to support Ukraine militarily and non-militarily, plus we also need to ramp up the pressure on Russia.
We see that our current measures are not working yet, and we have to synchronize ourselves with Americans and with their timeline. We see that we're still in a dance for two with the United States. Not such an elegant way, but not well rehearsed, but we are still working and we have to invest into it.
European Union foreign ministers were meeting on Tuesday in Brussels to discuss a new deal with Israel to deliver humanitarian aid to Gaza as well as new sanctions on Russia. According to Associated Press, the ministers from the EU's 27 member nations were meeting in the wake of a new aid deal for Gaza largely forged by the bloc's foreign policy chief, Kaja Kallas, and Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar. Sa'ar met with EU leaders on Monday after agreeing last week allow desperately needed food and fuel into the coastal enclave of 2.3 million people who have endured more than 21 months of war. Before Tuesday's meeting began, Kallas said the EU was seeking updates from Israel on the implementation of the deal to deliver the humanitarian aid. Kallas also said ministers were set to discuss Iran's nuclear program, concerns over developments in Georgia and Moldova, and new sanctions on Russia. The EU is readying its 18th package of sanctions on Russia, with holdouts within the bloc arguing over the keystone policy of capping oil prices to cut into Moscow's energy revenues.
Still wearing the tie. Yeah.
Okay. I can now see you as well. I heard you, but I can now see you. So, dear Andre, welcome to this corner. But we would also like to hear about the progress in the